Hey guys, what is up? It's Aime and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is really exciting. So if you didn't already know, April 22nd is Earth Day, and then April has kind of been co-opted to be Earth Month. I mean, every month is Earth Month, but that's besides the point. So what I thought would be really fun was if I got together a bunch of different content creators that focus on climate change and sustainability, and we would all talk about what got us into climate activism and education, and then also what hope we have for the future. I'm hoping today's video can be a bright spot in your day, and it can help you be more hopeful for the future, and that you also find some other content creators talking about climate change that you can follow, because all these people are amazing. I'm going to have their channels linked down below so you can go follow them, but they all make amazing content educating people on the issues when it comes to climate change, but also on the solutions, because solutions are very, very important. So because this is my channel, I thought I would go first. So this was probably around 2017, 2018, my junior year of high school. I took a class called AP Environmental Science, and this class basically touched on the environment, the issues with the environment, the impact that humans have on the environment, and overall just like it wasn't focused on climate change, but that was a big part of the class, obviously, because we're learning about environment. During this class, I kind of understood the kind of veracity of the issue of climate change. Obviously, growing up, you learn about reduce, reuse, recycle, you learn about all those things, but it isn't an issue that I had kind of at the forefront of my mind. So after taking that class, I kind of started to research more about climate change. I started making videos about it, and when I got to university, I actually minored in sustainability studies. Once again, just learning more about climate change, learning about the solutions, not just for individuals, but also for communities and for governments and businesses. So over the years, I've just taken more classes, done more research, made videos about climate change, and now I'm at the point where it's kind of consuming my whole personality. Something that really gives me hope is the fact that the things I learned are things that are not available to many people just online. Like if you're watching this video, you have access to so many YouTube videos, YouTube creators, Instagram accounts that talk about climate change, that talk about the issue in a way that's really approachable. I don't have a background in like science, I don't have a PhD or anything in like climate science, but I watch YouTubers who talk about the science side of it, and I'm able to understand these issues on a much deeper level versus like if I read a textbook, like I literally would not be able to understand anything. But there's so many YouTubers that do talk about the issues in a way that's really approachable, and they're able to share their expertise, all the things they learned from years and years of studying. They're able to share it in a YouTube video that I can watch and I can understand.
Hi, I'm Adam Levy, aka Climate Adam, and I am a science journalist and climate change communicator and climate change YouTuber. The way I got into working on climate change wasn't by working on climate change. I actually did an undergraduate degree in physics, and as part of that degree you can study atmospheric or oceanic physics, which I did not do. I focused on theoretical and biological physics. And I thought about continuing with a postgraduate degree after that, but instead I went out into the real world and worked on various things, including as a software developer. And through doing all these things, I realized how important it was for me to work on something that I actually cared about, that actually really mattered to me. And I realized that that wasn't what I was doing. So I tried to think about what the skills I had developed so far could actually offer the world, and I came to think that, okay, well maybe I could use my physics degree and my technical understanding for something. And long story short, I ended up doing an atmospheric physics doctorate. So atmospheric physics is still physics, but focused on climate change and the atmosphere. And I loved it, and it was really the first time I had studied climate change, although of course it was something I'd read about and learned a little bit about on my own. But now studying it, actually doing my small part to, in a tiny way, expand the pool of human knowledge about climate change. And in doing this, I read about some absolutely amazing research from incredible researchers, met very many incredible researchers. But I noticed that there's such a gap between where the research was and state-of-the-art research and what researchers were doing, and where the public conversation was, and, oh gosh, especially where the political conversation was. And through that, I kind of realized that what really mattered to me was trying to decrease the size of that gap, trying to share that understanding that we have of climate science as widely as I can. And so that's what I do now. I'm a science journalist covering climate, but also a lot of other science. And I have my climate change YouTube channel, Climate Adam. Oh, and I did finish the doctorate as well in the meantime.
Hi, my name is Kurtis Baute, and I run a YouTube channel called Kurtis Baute. And for as long as I can remember, I've cared about the environment. I became a vegetarian at 14, largely for environmental reasons, and I went on to do a degree in biology and then a master's of science studying renewable energy. I've always cared about this stuff. But I haven't always really been that worried about climate change, and I definitely haven't always been a climate activist. And that changed for me when I did a YouTube video about climate change. I used to do all these over-the-top science projects, and in one of them, I thought it would be fun to seal myself in a jar with several hundred plants in order to talk about how we interact with the air we breathe and to show how we are causing climate change and what that means for us, how that affects us. So I did this project thinking that it would be just like any other project that I've done in the past, but it threw me for an absolute existential crisis. Because in doing the research for that video and in doing interviews for it afterwards, I realized that climate change was just way worse than I thought it was. It's way worse than anybody had ever told me that it was. And so, 2 years ago, that was 2018, almost 3 years ago, I decided to do more for climate change, for climate action. I switched my YouTube channel to focus entirely on that, and I try to do as much work for climate action outside of YouTube as I can. And so that's my story. And in terms of hope, at the risk of sounding like a contrary nihilist, I don't really operate on hope. I mean, I have some hopes, but for the most part, I just know that the more we can reduce emissions, the more warming that we can prevent, the better. And I need to do as much as I can to fight that. That's all really for me. It's just it's the fact that that's the right thing to do, and I can do it, so I do.
Hey everyone, my name is Aime and I run the channel Sustainably Vegan. And I got into climate activism, I think several years ago when I started a YouTube channel, and I just wanted to, learn more about what zero waste living was and try and just document it a little bit online. And that really helped me to kind of find other people who were doing, I guess, what I would call real activism. And it just kind of made me realize how intersectional environmentalism really should be and how one-dimensional my activism had been. And it has really changed over the last few years from following so many different activists on Instagram in particular, where I think it's so great, where you can find a lot of people like Isaias from Queer Brown Vegan and Michaela Loach, who's a UK-based influencer. I just learn so much from following other people's activism that it helps to inform mine. And my activism is very much about learning as I go and sharing that journey with people so they can perhaps see where, their holes are in terms of their knowledge, or their gaps rather, I shouldn't say holes, where their gaps in their knowledge are, and perhaps question some of their privileges and their motives and what they're using their platforms for. And I've definitely tried to change the way that I use my platforms, specifically Instagram, to uplift more influencers who are doing just incredible work that deserve that kind of platform. My hope for the future, or what gives me hope, is, to be honest, the youth. I know I'm not that old, but I feel old when I look at the kind of activists that we have now, 15, 16, 17-year-olds who are doing amazing work. And they're not only creating these, wonderful platforms where they're sharing content and things like that. They're out on the streets, turning up to protests and actually speaking out for what they believe in. And they're voting and they're engaging the young audience, which is a huge and important, aspect of activism, is engaging young people into voting. So yeah, I find young people incredibly inspiring. I find everyone, a lot of people inspiring, but the youth are what give me hopes for the future because they're so much more educated than I ever was when I was that age. They're so much more in tune with social issues, racial issues, environmental issues, which of course are all connected. And I just can't wait to see what we can all do together, how we can be inspired by them, and how we can all work together as a collective for a brighter future.
What's up guys? First of all, I want to say a huge thank you to Aime for putting this video together. It's fantastic to be here. My name's Rosh and I run a channel called All About Climate, which is dedicated to communicating climate science and combating climate disinformation. I'm a trained geologist, and it's really through the lens of geology that I first became interested in climate change. Now you might be thinking, what's geology got to do with climate change? And it's a fair question, and the answer is a lot more than you might think. Because by studying fossils and sediment cores, scientists can piece together how the climate changed in the past, and there's a few important things we can learn from this. The first is that when atmospheric CO2 levels rise, the planet warms. The second is that when the climate changes rapidly, it tends to be bad news for the species living on the planet at the time. And the third is that neither CO2 nor global temperatures have ever risen as rapidly as they are rising today. In fact, modern warming is 10 times faster than even the fastest climate change recorded in the geological record. So naturally, when I was studying this, I got a little concerned. I looked around and only a few people seemed to be taking climate change as seriously as they should be. Worse, there were a whole bunch of people actively spreading disinformation and lies about the science. And so I decided that I needed to contribute to the conversation, communicate climate science, and take the so-called climate skeptics on. All About Climate was born. As well as combating science deniers on my channel, I also think it's important to create a narrative of hope, because unfortunately the climate conversation can often become overly pessimistic, and that can cause people to despair or give up. Don't do that, because there are a lot of reasons to be at least cautiously optimistic. Over recent years, there has been a seismic shift in public awareness of climate change, and the will to act has never been higher. Many developed economies have drastically reduced their emissions, and even oil giants like Shell and BP have predicted that global oil demand will decrease from now on. Obviously, we shouldn't get complacent. Achieving carbon neutrality won't be easy, but it is absolutely achievable, and that fact alone should give us reason to hope.
Hello everybody, I'm Emma from The Simple Environmentalist, and today I want to talk to you about why I got into climate activism. So I've always had a really big love for nature, as I'm sure many of us have, but I wasn't aware of the impact that I was having on the planet when I was just living in my small town of 2,000 people. It wasn't until I moved out of that town that I really saw the impact that we were having on the planet as humans when I saw how much plastic was ending up in the garbage. That was a big issue for me, and that was kind of my first push towards climate activism, was let me find a way to divert this plastic from the landfill. It really got deeper when I moved to Japan. I live on a small island in Japan called Okinawa, and it is just one stop for trash on the way to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So a lot of waste washes up on our shores here in Okinawa, a lot of it foreign waste. A lot of it is not left here by people, just random beachgoers. And so that really opened my eyes to the plastic pollution crisis even more, was seeing how much foreign plastic was washing up on our shores, and just imagining if this is all that's washing up on our shores, how much more is out in the ocean. It's absolutely fantastic to do beach cleanups and to divert plastic from the landfill, but what about reducing my waste in the first place? And that was my really big push. I didn't want to be a part of all that waste ending up on beaches anymore. So from there, I started my website and YouTube channel and Instagram, all by the name The Simple Environmentalist, because I didn't want my actions to stop with me. I wanted everything that I learned to be presented to more and more people, to try to get more and more people engaged and making small changes that really do have a big impact in the long run. So that is why I continue my YouTube channel today. Primarily, I use my other platforms as well, is in order to educate people on zero waste and prove that zero waste doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, it can be free, easy, and fun, and accessible to almost everyone. What gives me hope is seeing more companies and more individuals taking action every single day. Things like getting comments on my videos saying, wow, I'm gonna start eating less meat now, or I'm gonna go out and buy myself a reusable water bottle, and seeing big companies take steps like becoming carbon neutral, becoming a certified B Corp, reducing their plastic or eliminating all their plastic together. A few years ago, at one company here, one company there, making changes, but now I feel like everywhere we look, even big companies like Dove are creating reusable products and refillable products, and that is just absolutely amazing. I have so many friends who are still in high school and are so passionate about the climate and about their future. And so this younger generation is really giving me hope as well, and also inspiration. It inspires me to help fight for their future too. And then one last thing is just making more eco-conscious friends on platforms like YouTube and Instagram, and getting to collab and talk about all of the things that we want to change in the world, and that is just so exciting to me. So happy Earth Day, everybody. I hope that you go out and make some small changes today, whether it be something simple like picking up trash on a walk, turning off lights when you leave a room, or even doing something like calling your local representatives. All changes do really have a big impact in the long run, no matter how big or small.
Hello, my name's Dave Borlace and I run the Just Have a Think YouTube channel, talking about the consequences of the 21st century climate emergency and looking at the solutions that might just help mitigate the worst of those consequences. What motivated me to start a YouTube channel? Well, my degree is in design technology, and much of my career has been focused on efficiencies in materials and production and energy use. So I always thought I had a reasonable handle on the whole climate thing. But about 4 years ago, while I was researching how to do a DIY solar PV installation on the roof of this very cabin, I started to look much more closely at the various factors that were causing our atmosphere to warm. And the harder I looked, the more I realised how serious our predicament was becoming. So I decided to go on a personal voyage of discovery to educate myself about what was really happening to our planet and what we really needed to be doing to avoid catastrophic disaster. And I figured it might be a good idea to talk about that on a public forum like YouTube. So here we are, 3 years and about 150 odd videos later. I'm still going and I'm still learning something new every week. What gives me hope for the future? Well, despite a strong temptation to remain pretty cynical about the status quo in government and commerce, I really do believe the collective actions of a few very courageous pioneers are beginning to change attitudes in general public, especially now we've all had a year or so of reduced activity, which has provided us all an unprecedented opportunity to contemplate how each of us should really be prioritising our lifestyles. And I think governments and corporations have also sensed that change, and they've realised they'll need to respond to that if they want to maintain popular support either for their policies or for their products. The challenge is time, of course, because the clock keeps ticking whatever we do, and we've probably only got about a decade or so to fundamentally rearrange our societies so that all of us, including all the other species that we share this world with, can live in a more equitable and sustainable way. So the more people in society shout about the issues and make a nuisance of themselves, the better as far as I'm concerned, which leads me nicely to a quote from the civil rights activist James Baldwin, who said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And I'll wrap up with another little thought that keeps me going when it sometimes all seems a bit hopeless. You may think what you do is just a drop in the ocean, but remember that the ocean is made up of drops. Cheers.
Hi friends, I'm Susie from Chew on That, and I make videos about sustainability, consciousness, and commentary. And I'm so excited to be here to talk to you about how I got into my version of climate activism. I've always been very passionate about just having the most positive impact that one can on this planet, for one another and for the earth, which sustains us. And that was really heightened when I met my best friend Shai. So Shai and I together started to work on environmental projects, and eventually we started our own small sustainable business called Branching Together. My YouTube channel started out really focusing only on sustainability, but now I talk about so many other topics because the thing about sustainability and being conscious of one's impact on the earth is that it's completely holistic. And by that, I mean everything is connected and impacts one another. Because of that, I really see how climate activism impacts so many other areas in society. When it's intersectional, environmentalism hits so many points, so it's very clear that the positive path forward is being in tandem with the earth and with one another, listening to one another as far as concerns and celebrations, and being very conscious of our physical surroundings because we only have one earth. So make sure that you're celebrating Earth Day every single day. Thank you so much, Aime, for including me in this video, and happy Earth Day! Bye.
Hi pals, it's Sarah. My climate activist journey started when I was 18 and I went to Washington DC for a global leadership summit. And when I was there, I realized that, wow, the world does not revolve around me and that there are a lot of injustices in this world that we really should be focusing on. And up until that point, I just didn't care at all. And at that point, I still didn't even care about climate activism. It was fast fashion that I cared about and the unequal treatment of women and girls in garment factories. And so when I came back from that, I started at university. I majored in international studies and marketing because I thought, wow, business, that's the answer. But it isn't till late 2018 where I started getting involved in my sustainability commission on my university campus. And it wasn't until fall of 2019 that I would actually consider myself someone who's a climate activist and someone who helped plan and lead the climate strike on September 20th at my university. But remember, this is a linear journey. It's really important that you just get involved. And like I said, as long as you know that the planet is warming and that is bad, you are more than welcome to come, and I promise you that people will be ecstatic that you are there.
So that was it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you kind of found some other content creators that you can follow. Like I said, I'm really inspired by how much information is out there, because information is power, knowledge is power. So it's great to see so many different creators, some with like PhDs, some people with just a lot of creativity and a lot of time to like figure out ways to decrease their impact. Just there's so much information, and it really inspires me watching so many other people talk about the same things I talk about and kind of share this information to other people. Once again, everyone's information is linked in the description, so you can go follow them. Also, thank you so much for everyone on my Patreon. On my Patreon, I do post like videos early. I'll do like polls, and I also do one extra video a week on my Patreon. So if you want to be involved in that at all, definitely click my Patreon and join it. I'm also going to have my social media platforms, my Instagram and my Twitter, linked in the description if you want to follow me outside of YouTube. That being said, that was it for today's video. Once again, it's Earth Month, so do a little bit extra recycling this month. Be vegan for this month if you can. Just do whatever you can to be a little bit kinder to the planet. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.